Welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. After two really fun what-if episodes, things got real dark real fast in this one. Hank Pym just killed the Avengers.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So this shocking turn of events happened because Nick Fury recruited Hope, who died on a mission. This is why Pym broke bad and went on a murder spree, killing the Avengers before they even got to assemble. Now, we have a shocking revelation about who killed Hope, but there's more to it than that. I think there's someone else who was pulling the strings, someone who benefited the most from the Avengers' death, and that someone is Loki.
Come on. What did you expect?
So allow me to explain how Loki orchestrated this chain of events that led to the death of the Avengers.
Agent Hope Van Dyne was killed on a mission outside Odessa, Ukraine.
Agent? She was my daughter!
Alright, so let's start with a quick recap to set the stage. This alternate universe was created after Nick Fury made the choice to recruit Hope Van Dyne as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's the moment that branched the timeline. Hope died on a mission, and Hank Pym went crazy, made himself a Yellowjacket suit, and killed the Avengers with prejudice. So all the Avengers are dead except Steve Rogers, who was a capsicle at this time.
You might have missed a couple things, doing time as a capsicle.
Hope was killed outside of Odessa, Ukraine, which isn't a random place on the map. Odessa was mentioned in the MCU in the past.
5 years ago, I was escorting a nuclear engineer out of Iran. Somebody shot out my tires near Odessa.
This is the mission where Natasha first encountered the Winter Soldier. And it can't be a coincidence that Hope died in the same place around the same time. So yeah, you probably figured it out by now, Bucky killed Hope.
You didn't see that coming?
Which adds another name to Bucky's list. So by itself, this is a shocking revelation. The Winter Soldier killed Hope, but of course, at the time, Bucky was under Hydra's control, so they are the ones who are responsible. But this video isn't about Bucky killing Hope, it's about Loki being the one who's behind Hope's death.
I see a scheme, and in that scheme, I see myself.
So here's our idea. While the Winter Soldier is the one who pulled the trigger, Loki is the one that pulled the strings that led to her being killed. He made sure that Hope would be in Odessa and that she came face to face with Bucky. So how did he do it? Well, Loki has proven that he has a lot of tricks in the bag, so arranging an assassination with his magic really shouldn't be too hard for him.
The hell was that?
That was me, using magic to dry my clothes.
But why? Why would Loki kill Hope? Loki is now a good guy, a hero in fact. But there was a time when he was a really bad guy. There's a good reason for why I think Loki is far more sinister in this what if, and I'll get into that later in the video. But first, let's talk about his plan and why he needed Hope to die. Loki has always wanted to rule Asgard. Years and years of bitterness and jealousy have led him down a dark path. And after conquering Asgard, ruling Earth seems like the most natural next step, because he's always wanted to be the king of the whole 9 realms.
Right now you're the king of Midgard, then what?
Asgard, the 9 realms.
Loki, the king of space.
Not knowing that his dad already did this and it didn't work out.
Oh shit.
Loki wanted to get out of Thor's shadow, prove to Odin that he's the better son, prove his worthiness. But since no one respected Loki or took him seriously, he had to become the villain of his story. The thing is, taking over the 9 realms without the support of the people would have been a mistake. Remember how much disdain Sif had for Loki when she saw him sitting on Odin's throne?
You conniving, craven, pathetic worm.
There's no way the people of Asgard will agree with Loki's plan to take over Earth, at least not without proper incentive. Thor was beloved by his people, the heir to the throne. So what happens when Thor is killed? Well, the people of Asgard will want blood and vengeance. Grief and anger cloud judgment, and Loki knows how to manipulate those feelings to his own advantage. But of course, Loki couldn't just kill Thor himself, no. He needed someone to take the blame, a perfect scapegoat. A pawn who has the motive, means, and opportunity to kill Thor. This way, Loki's hands are clean, no way to tie him to Thor's death. So Loki came up with the perfect plan. Get Thor banished to Earth, set events into motion, and then have him killed by a human. Loki must have kept tabs on the comings and goings on Earth since, it's Loki. People with superior abilities like Hank Pym would have definitely caught his eye. He saw that Hank Pym was somewhat unstable to begin with. He already lost his wife, so if he loses his daughter, well, it's like the Joker once said.
See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
And as Hank explained, the Pym particles caused him some mental health issues and took a serious toll on him. So pushing Hank to the limit by killing his daughter, well, that's how you get Hank Pym going psycho.
You took everything from me. I wanted you to hurt, to witness everything you ever worked for die.
And Hank is a great fall guy for Loki, someone who's capable of killing Thor in his human form and who isn't powerful enough to be a problem later on. That's why Loki didn't just use the Hulk. Sure, the green monster could have killed Thor, but if Hulk turned on Loki, then he would be toast. Loki knew about Fury's plan to assemble the Avengers. Now we know this because he was watching through Eric Selvig, and then devoted a lot of effort to dismantling the team before they got started. And for Loki's glorious purpose to become reality, he couldn't allow the Avengers to foil his plans. So if he already had Hank killing Thor, why not use that opportunity to get rid of all the Avengers at the same time? Also, it removes a lot of supposition from Loki. If only Thor would have died, then there's something fishy about it, and Lady Sif will surely suspect Loki. But with all the other heroes getting killed by a deranged Hank Pym, well, that just paints a different picture. Now yes, in the episode, Hank says that he just randomly killed Thor because he knew that Fury would have recruited him.
And what of Thor, Prince of Asgard?
Goldilocks? You would have recruited him in a heartbeat.
Loki has his magical tricks, and he can shapeshift and create illusions. He could have easily led Hank Pym down this path. And just to clarify, I'm not saying that Loki worked with Pym in secret or anything like that. Hank was working alone, as far as he knew. My guess is that Loki exploited Hank's mental state, possibly using his illusions to trick Hank and push him to kill the Avengers without Hank knowing. I mean, Hank was so off his rocker that a trickster like Loki didn't have to work too hard to get him to do what he wanted, without him even realizing that he's a pawn in Loki's grand scheme. Now, when Loki arrived on Earth with an army, the Asgardians were sure that it was Clint who killed Thor, and no one even knew about Hank at the time. Well, other than Loki. And the optics of a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent murdering the God of Thunder are pretty bad, and something that the Asgardians could buy, even those who don't trust Loki. Now, if all of this sounds far-fetched to you, listen to this. At the time, Loki was the king of Asgard, after Odin went into his sleep mode. Then Thor gets killed, meaning that Loki has removed any doubt about his right to rule, since by the law of succession, he's now the rightful king. No one else knows that he's a frost giant, and I'm pretty sure that Frigga's not going to tattle on him. So even if Sif and the others doubted Loki, it's much harder to dispute his claim to the throne with Thor's death.
Makes you sound super smart.
I am smart.
I know.
Okay.
Also, Loki used similar tactics in Thor 1. He brought the frost giants to Asgard to ruin Thor's coronation. Then he manipulated his brother into attacking Jotunheim, while he himself warned Odin about the attack. Thor got banished, leaving Loki as the heir to the throne. After that, Loki tricked Laufey into an alliance. He brought him to Asgard to kill Odin in his sleep, only to stab him in the back, all of it to make himself the hero of the story. Loki, the savior of Asgard. Oh, what's that I hear? Are you furiously tapping on a keyboard? You're about to tell me about Heimdall. Sure, Heimdall can see it all, except at the times he's totally blind. It was established that Loki was able to evade Heimdall's gaze many times.
I turned my gaze upon you in Jotunheim, but could neither see you nor hear you.
Perhaps your senses have weakened.
Or perhaps someone has found a way to hide that which he does not wish me to see.
And let's be honest, Heimdall's vision is very dependent on the plot. Also, some of you will say that it's out of character for Loki to kill Thor, but he literally tried to do it twice in Thor 1. First by smashing mortal Thor with the Destroyer, and then by trying to kill him on the Bifrost Bridge. But then the plot thickens. Fury realized that it was Hank all along, which led him to team up with Loki to take down Pym. So now Loki is the hero of the story. He brought Thor's killer to justice and helped Fury uncover the murder mystery. It was Fury who came to Loki to ask for his help, so clearly Loki couldn't have anything to do with Thor's murder. The final step of the plan was to convince the Asgardians that they should take over Earth. Asgard has always protected Earth, but now a human killed their would-be king. Humanity has proven that it's ready for a higher form of war. They have superhumans and advanced tech, so now they are a threat to Asgard. Now you may think Asgardians would oppose this, but here's the thing. At the time, Asgard was at war with the Frost Giants. Sure, it was a very cold war.
Alright, get your jokes out now.
Pun intended. And now the Asgardians have lost their champion and Odin is sleeping. They are left with Loki as their king. And Asgard can't afford to fight a war on multiple fronts, so wouldn't it be smart to just take over the Earth peacefully? Unite the 9 realms again, as Odin once did, bring an end to the endless wars all under Loki's rule.
The nations of Earth have put aside their differences and united under my command.
And if Odin ever wakes up, Loki can arrange his assassination, since Odin would have put a stop to all this madness. Or maybe Loki just banishes his father to Earth or some other realm like he did in Ragnarok. Loki couldn't accomplish all of this if Thor and the Avengers were still alive, and I think that this proves that Loki was behind it all.
Yes, well, that's a very, very interesting theory.
But of course, things might not go Loki's way in the end, with Fury finding Steve in the ice and Carol returning to Earth. So maybe Emperor Loki's rule will be a sure one in the end. Okay, so all of this explains Loki's master plan, but how did he get so evil all of a sudden? What the show has established is that each universe is created by a choice, a moment that branched reality from the original timeline.
Agent Carter, wouldn't you be more comfortable in the booth?
No, I'd prefer to stay.
There. That's the moment that created a new universe.
So it takes one choice to branch off of a timeline, but as we saw within the sacred timeline in the final episode of Loki, there are several different timelines running concurrently to one another, each a little bit different. This is how there could be so many different variants of Loki, such as a female Loki, Hulk Loki, etc. Therefore, in this universe, Loki was always fundamentally different. He was always fundamentally evil. This explains why Thanos became a good guy in last week's episode, though we also made a video explaining how T'Challa convinced Thanos to change his mind. You should check that out. But that's the fun of the what-if concept. In the main MCU timeline, Loki is an anti-hero/hero, but what if we have a universe where Loki is an actual evil villain? If Hope didn't die, she would have become an Avenger in this universe. This is interesting, because in the original plans for the first Avengers, the Wasp was supposed to be part of the team, instead of Black Widow, though it was supposed to be Janet and not Hope. In the comics, Hank Pym alongside Janet Van Dyne were the founding members of the Avengers, alongside Iron Man, Thor, and Hulk. When the Avengers first assembled, Captain America was still trapped in ice, just like what happened in this episode. Also, in the comics, Hank is sort of an a-hole. He did a lot of questionable things, some that are downright criminal, sort of like the Hank in this episode.
That's Captain America? He looks so young.
Yeah, well, he's about 60 years too old for you, so you can pick your tongue up off the floor now. Hey.
And in the comics, Loki is far more evil than he is in the MCU. So what if this new universe was always more like the comics? All of this could explain why the Loki in this episode is capable of doing all the things that I talked about. He isn't the same Loki we know from the MCU. He's more like the comics Loki, making him an evil Loki.
What was your Nexus event, Your Majesty?
I killed Thor.
But I think it's a fascinating spin on the events of the MCU. But what do you think? Was it Loki all along? What do you think will happen in this universe with the ending that we got? And will the Avengers ever assemble? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.